Hey everybody, Jason Rodriguez here today with the World Impact Collective. Today, this video is going to be a little bit different. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure if I'm going to make this public. Might be just a private video for myself. See, it's kind of therapeutic, perhaps just giving me the opportunity to kind of talk through something. Yesterday, a dear friend of mine, one of my best friends in the whole world, passed away, Luke Gertner. And so I just want to talk. I just want to talk about Luke today. Share some memories that I have of him. Talk about the impact that he's made in my life and in the life of the people in and around him. Luke and I, we go quite a ways back. He been a part of my life from about the same time that, well, before I met my wife, before we got together. He was there the night that she first came over to the house. Her and her friends. Luke was there, hanging out with me and my brother, my cousin. Um, I went into Round Table Pizza to pick up some pizza. Obviously, that's what you go to Round Table for. And while I was there, I didn't have the Round Table in the town I was in. It didn't take credit cards, and I didn't have cash. And this was before the time of like the ATM kiosks where they've got ATMs everywhere. So I go in and I don't have any money. So I'm looking around and I see this table of girls. Now I say there's four girls. My wife tells me that there were only three. Um, and anyway, I go over to this table. My wife's there. Obviously, we weren't married at the time. And then she was there with two or three of her friends, depending on who's telling the story. Um, and basically, I needed money, so I asked them for money. They gave me money. I don't know why. And I invited them over to the house afterwards to share in the pizza and just hang out. It was a weekend, Friday, Saturday night. I don't really remember exactly what night it was, but they came over, and thus began the 10 years that we've been married. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary last week, and so anyway, so Luke was there from the beginning. I remember when Luke first moved to town. I met him through a guy that I played basketball with. I don't remember the guy's name actually, but this guy worked with Luke at the state hospital in Porterville. And he probably just mentioned, I don't know, maybe he brought Luke to church. I don't remember exactly how we got connected, but it was definitely through this guy. Luke was not from Porterville. He came into town for this job, and he didn't know anybody. So through this guy that he worked with, he got introduced to me. I introduced him to the kind of the circle of friends that I had. And to this day, Luke and myself and Benji Heighton, we're all friends. And so Luke came into our circle of friends, and we hung out and just began hanging out together all the time. We liked different things, but one thing that we enjoyed that we could both do together was play tennis. And so we spent a lot of time playing tennis. We spent a lot of time just hanging out, just talking. Luke came from a totally different background than me and other people that I know. Luke was homeschooled, and at the time it was like all the people I knew that were homeschooled were a little bit different. A little, I don't want to say odd, I don't want to say strange, but obviously they being homeschooled versus not public school, there's a lot of differences there. And so that was a peculiarity with Luke, that we always kind of made fun of him for being homeschooled, and I don't know that it was that. I don't think we took it really that serious, but it was something that was peculiar about him. But he was different. He was definitely different, and just a great guy. I mean, we really, I think, connected from just right from the beginning, and really enjoyed each other. Benji being a part of that group. Benji was a ham, and so I remember one night going out to Visalia. I think four of us: Benji, Luke, myself, another guy named Brian. I think it was the four of us. We went out to this restaurant called Cask and Cleaver in Visalia. It was right on the corner. It was a fairly nice restaurant and a little bit pricey. And this is something Luke and I still kind of laughed about, even here recently. Cask and Cleaver, and it was I don't know how to describe it, but it was kind of a little bit of an upscale restaurant. Definitely a little bit pricey. I don't know why we went there, but we went there this one night, and really none of us, I don't think were satisfied or really happy with what we got. I spent who knows how much, $20 or something on, six. I say little shrimp. They were probably jumbo shrimp, but I got six shrimp and some rice, for like $20 and some vegetables, which I hated at the time, so I didn't eat those. And Benji, I think, put it best as we left there that night. He said, this place ought to be called Rape and Pillage, not Cask and Cleaver. And so it was, that was just something that just a memory I have with Luke. And I guess it's more of a memory with Benji because his funny humor. But anyway, so Luke was there, when my wife and I met. We got together, dated. That was crazy kind of early days in that relationship. It was definitely up and down. So he was there through all of that. Of course, I remember when his wife came to town. She was part of, Rebecca, she was part of a family traveling singing group, let's say. Who knows where they traveled. Gosh, what was the kind of music they did? If you ever watch this, Rebecca, you can correct me. I don't remember what kind of music it was. Bluegrass, maybe? I don't know, kind of not my thing. But I remember she and her family, they went and performed at Luke's church, and definitely got Luke's attention. Now, when Luke was single before he met Rebecca, and he moved to Porterville, he liked a lot of girls. I mean, don't we all, right? I mean, we all do, but he liked a lot of girls. But Rebecca was different, and I remember when she came to town, he was not going to let her get away. He was not going to let her roll out of Porterville and him not connect with her. Just something about her that he really liked. You have to ask Rebecca the story. I don't remember exactly the whole story, but I know that he went over to their trailer or RV or whatever it was and talked to her some and got her, I don't know, her number or address or something so that they could stay in touch. And then, obviously eventually they got married and she moved to town, and so our singles tennis became double tennis, with me and Kimberly and Luke and Rebecca. And then short time later, she was pregnant and had their first child, Karsten. They had lived in a nice little condo there in Porterville, right by the highway, the overpass there on Morton Street. And it was a homey little place. And then he was working at the church, Southern Baptist Church there in Porterville, was serving as their music minister and youth pastor. And then he got the call to go to Sacramento, and so he moved. Him and his family got up and moved up north, moved up to Sacramento. And as relationships sometimes do when people move away, we talked a little bit at first, and then just kind of drifted apart. This was before, obviously this was before the days of Facebook. And really, in a lot of social media, so there wasn't an easy way to just, stay in touch, stay in contact, without picking up the telephone and, calling or something like that. And I mean, for those of you that know me, you know that I'm not much of a conversationalist when it comes to picking up the telephone. That's probably the least effective or favorite way of communicating. I just don't. I'd much rather talk face to face, in person, hang out over coffee or something. But talking on the phone's not my thing. So we kind of drifted apart there for a while and lost contact. He changed his phone number to a 916 number, and so didn't have his phone number anymore and stuff. And then a number of years went by. Benji and I, we'd still talk about him. Never forgot Luke. Big, He was gone physically from Porterville and from our lives, but he always had a place in our heart. And when I moved up here to Sacramento a number of years ago, I don't know, I think it was about 4 years ago now, one of the first things that I wanted to do was try to track Luke down. The problem with that was I didn't know how to spell his last name. I just don't pay attention to details like that. So I'm searching all over the internet for Luke Gertner with no idea how to spell Gertner. Really, I think I was making it more difficult than it was, because it's not that difficult of a last name to spell, but yeah, I was making it fancy or something. I don't know what the heck Gertner is, but I was having a heck of a time spelling it. But I finally found him, and I worked pretty diligently on it to track him down, and sure enough, I found him at Hillsdale Southern Baptist Church, and so shot him an email or something. I got in touch with him, maybe called him, maybe found his phone number or something, gave him a call and was like, dude, let's get together, let's play tennis, it's been a while. And so he not realizing that I had moved up here, he was like, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, let's get together for tennis. And I'm like, no, I'm serious, let's get together. Where are you at? I'll come to you. So anyway, we reconnected after a number of years apart, and it was just like he never left. It was just like we'd never been apart. And we just connected and picked right up where we had left off. I guess I failed to mention this. I was in Luke's wedding. Of course, he was in my wedding, played the piano for us as part of that. And the funny thing is, my whole day that I got married is a big blur to me. I really remember almost nothing about it. And so Luke has to remind me that he was in our wedding. I don't have any recollection of that, but he was, and because he was a big part of our life. And also when he got married in Oregon, because Rebecca was from Oregon, and so I decided to drive up to Oregon for his wedding, and it's a long ways to go to Oregon, and I wasn't wasn't invited at that point. I wasn't invited to be a part of the wedding. I was just going to go as a viewer of the wedding. And I get up there, and I don't remember exactly what happened. Somebody got sick or something. One of the guys who was in his, was supposed to be part of the wedding party, couldn't make it. And so now they were down a guy. And so they was like, hey, Jason, will you fill in? And so I ended up being in Luke's wedding. Obviously this other guy, his tuxedo didn't fit me, so we had to do some alterations there at the last minute. It was an interesting experience, to say the least. There's a lot of stories I won't tell about that that experience there. But you'll protect the innocent. So anyhow, yeah. So I was in his wedding. He was in my wedding. I mean, we were just good friends. And so when I moved up here, we just picked up, kind of right where we left off, and started playing tennis together again. Something that we really enjoyed doing was watching movies. He and I would go on these man dates, where just the two of us would go catch an early movie and slip in and sit nice and close to each other there in the dark and snuggle, and we had a lot of these man dates where we'd go watch movies, but just enjoyed hanging out. He didn't drink coffee, he drank tea. I drink coffee, so I'd get coffee, he'd get tea. We'd hang out at Bloom here in Roseville, Bloom Coffee and Tea, and just have these deep conversations, have these light conversations, have good laughs. We did a lot of scheming, a lot of planning, how we're gonna get rich, how we're gonna make money off of real estate, off of gold and silver. Luke and I we just love each other, and just had a really, really good time hanging out when we hung out. Just talked about everything from philosophy to religion to our families, our marriages. Again, I won't tell his secrets, and he won't tell mine. But we just really, he was just the guy that I could really relate to and connect to and just love. I love that guy. Really love that guy. And remember, he called me up one day and he says, Jason, there's a need in my church. There's a need for the college age young adults. They don't really have anything for kids their age. And I feel like that this is a need in other churches within our denomination, with other churches that are our size, small churches that have, these handful of kids in their, between 18 and their early 20s that maybe just don't have other Christians to really connect to in their church because there's only a few. And wouldn't it be great if we could create a space to bring these kids together and to provide for them a place where they could hang out, where they could make connections, where they could fellowship, where they could worship. And thus began the vision for the journey. And so Luke, he invited me to be a part of this, and then of course Bethany, also a part of this, and so we began planning for this, and we brought together a small group of some kids from about 5 different churches. Were part of that very first planning group that started in September. Gosh, what year was it? We're in 13, so probably started in September of, I don't know, 2011? Yeah, probably 2011, September, we started meeting and started planning and just started the process of creating the vision for the journey. And what we wanted that to look like, what we wanted that to mean, what we wanted that to feel like, what we wanted that to be, and how we wanted that to become, and just began working on that process together. And then we met every month. We got to, we're going to launch this thing. And this isn't about the journey, but the journey was, I think, and I think it is an important part of Luke's legacy, because that's going to live on. That group is going to live on, and I hope that the memory of Luke Gertner lives on with it, because he was absolutely instrumental in bringing this together. And even though once it started and once it got launched, he wasn't able to be a part of it very often, it wouldn't exist today. The journey wouldn't exist today if it weren't for Luke Gertner and his vision to reach and to provide a place for these kids, these young adults in small churches. So if you're a part of the journey and you never got a chance to know Luke, just know that it's his vision. It was his heart for you. It was his love for you that created that, and you will sustain it. And that will be a part of his legacy, I believe. But I remember in December, you get in the holiday seasons and things, you get busy. And Luke and I mean, we didn't hang out. There were times where we hung out every week, and there were times where we'd go, weeks without seeing or talking to each other. Just because life is busy, and he's got 3 kids, I got 4 kids. We got life, we got stuff, and I remember during the holidays that year, we got together. We got together for coffee one time at Bloom. Had a great time hanging out. He was a little bit sick, and he wasn't feeling real well. He kind of been going on for a couple weeks, and so I mean, it was just we got together, we hung out, and then we got into the holiday season, and some time went by, some weeks went by, hadn't really talked to each other, heard from each other, and so I gave him a call right around Christmas, right around the holidays, Gave him a call, and I was just like, dude, where are you, man? I called him a couple times, like, let's get together. Where are you at? What's going on? And and then I went away for Christmas. But I remember one of the messages I left, and feeling like an ass afterwards. You'll see why. You'll know why probably. Because in this message, I'm like, dude, why aren't you calling me back? And I wasn't mad, but it was just, when I call, you usually call me back, or answer. And so, he wasn't. And so I left this message, and I'm like, dude, why aren't you calling me back? Call me back, man. What are you, dead or something? Give me a call. Let's get together. Well, when I got back from Christmas, I had gone to my brother's over in Hawthorne, Nevada that year. When I got back, he called me. And I remember driving down Douglas Boulevard and making a right-hand turn right at Shady's. I think it's Judah, right in there somewhere downtown. Shady's Coffee. We're going to get a coffee. And he called. I picked up. I pulled over. And he tells me, as I give him a little bit of a hard time, like, dude, where you been? What have you been up to? What's going on? I haven't heard from you, man. He's like, well, I was in the hospital. I was like, in the hospital? What happened? He's like, well, I went in the hospital, and because I wasn't feeling well. I was like, yeah, I remember. I remember you were sick. We were fighting something. It's like, yeah, I went in the hospital, and they found out that I had pneumonia. It's like, oh man, that sucks. It's like, yeah, well. Then they kept doing some tests, and they found out that there was something else wrong. And they told me that I have lung cancer. That I have stage 4 lung cancer. And I'm sitting there in my car, my van, right in front of Shady's. And I'm like, dude, you're shitting me right now, right? You're full of shit. And he's like, no, no, I'm not. I'm serious. And I could hear it in his voice. Could hear in his voice that he was serious. It was not lying. Wasn't messing with me. I thought he was, because obviously I'd left that message. Why aren't you calling me? Because you dead or something. And I just remember the feeling that I had. Just shock. Just being in shock. Absolute shock. I didn't know. I mean, I'm not good with words anyway. I'm not the guy you want to deliver bad news to and receive some sort of comfort. I mean, just ask my wife. I'm not. Words are not my strength. I don't know what to say in situations like this, and I just remember feeling like the life had gone out of me. I felt in that moment like he died. I felt in that moment, even though I was talking to him, I felt like he was gone. Couldn't believe it. God, what do you do, I didn't know much about lung cancer. Didn't know what stage 4 lung cancer meant even. What does that even mean? Basically, he said, well, there's no stage 5. So I was like, okay, well, that's not good. What do you say to somebody in that situation? I was like, damn, nice knowing you. I mean, you don't want to be that guy that's negative, right? You want to have this. You want to be positive. You want to have faith that which you hope for, which is a recovery, is that you beat the cancer, because people do it. You want to hope for that. You want to believe that. You want to have faith for that. And at the same time, there's that reality. It's that reality that people with this diagnosis don't live 5 years. There's that reality that this dear friend of mine isn't going to be with us much longer. And I mean, God, I tell you, that knocked me down God, for probably a week, it just totally deflated me. I just didn't know how to process that, didn't know how to handle that, didn't know how to deal with that. It blew my mind. It just really did. I don't know. I didn't know what to do. Um, Man, just didn't know what to do. So yeah, that began the journey for, and I don't mean the journey. I just mean with Luke and I, that began our journey together through this experience with him. Um, I cherish those times. I mean, I remember all the times, but especially these times, from the time that he told me that when I was sitting outside of Shady's to the last time that I talked to him. Each time that we got together, I made sure to cherish. I made sure to hold that time in my heart as special. Because I knew that there wouldn't be many more times. I love that guy, Really did. And we continued to do our mandates, to the movies. It's kind of our thing, I think that's probably that and going together for coffee and tea. Those are probably the two things that I'm gonna remember Luke for. Those were our special times together. Those were the times that we shared together. This was quite a challenge for him. I hope he knows. I hope he felt my love for him as he went through this. Again, I'm not fantastic at expressing things verbally. I tried to spend as much time with them as I could, which was uncomfortable for me because I don't like seeing them. I don't like seeing them weak, but but it's not about me, and so anytime that he wanted to get together, I made sure to be there to get together with them. The last time that we talked was actually just a real quick conversation on the phone. He went through a lot in the last month or so. And during that time, we didn't talk a whole lot. I mean, he's going through shit, So I don't expect, I don't expect to hear from him. I don't necessarily expect that he's going to answer my calls when I call him. I don't expect that he's going to call me back. Even I have no expectation of him during this time. I just want to be there for him, right? So we didn't talk a whole lot because he's going through this shit. But I'd still call. And still leave him messages and still plan things for the future. We're planning on going to see the Superman movie this summer, and so we didn't talk a whole lot. And then a few weeks ago, my daughter had a field trip, and so we went for this field trip out to Bishop Ranch for what they call I call it the hamburger factory, but it's a hamburger farm is what it was called. we got there, me and Steve Lewis got there before the school bus did, and so we had a little bit of time to kill. And Luke called while we were waiting around for the kids to show up, and so I took his call. I answered. It had been a while since we talked. Honestly, I have stayed off of his Facebook page and Rebecca's Facebook page because I didn't want to hear things. I didn't want to. I don't know. It's just my way of coping, I guess. I didn't really want to know what was going on if I didn't hear it from him. Like I said, we didn't talk a whole lot because he was going through so much and just didn't feel like talking on the phone, I suppose. So this was the first time that we had talked in probably a few months. Yeah, probably a few months. And so he shared with me the story that I hadn't heard shared with me the story that I hadn't heard yet of what he had been going through, what he'd been dealing with, how he had lost the use of his legs, how he had gone to the hospital and the doctors sent him home to die, how he ended up in Mexico and getting a surgery, and now he was back. At this point when we were talking, he was at home at his parents' up in Redding area, and he was optimistic. He was feeling better. Wasn't feeling great, but feeling better than he had. He said he'd never experienced so much pain, but his spirits were up. It wasn't a depressing call or anything. I mean, he was in a good place, and so we talked. We talked about him coming on and sharing with a couple other guys who had battled cancer, and we were going to do a Google Hangout together, a group of us, and just let these guys that had all kind of gone through these similar experiences of battling cancer just share their stories. And so we set up the date and everything, and then it ended up not working out on multiple fronts. Luke had some issues with his computer. David Young had also some issues with his internet, and we weren't able to do that day. And so that was the last time that I talked to him, was just a real quick call to touch base and say, hey, we've been planning on this, but it's not gonna work out. We're not gonna be able to do it. And that was it. The last time I talked to him. And it's really, really hard to believe. I don't know. Death is funny, I guess. What I mean by funny is, literally, Luke and I would sometimes we go weeks, we go a month, we go maybe a couple months without talking to each other, and it was okay. It was no problem. It was no big deal. But now you think of death, and he's gone, and you realize that I will never, ever be able to talk with him again. We won't go to the movies again. We won't hang out at Bloom or Shady's or anywhere else again. I guess, I don't know, it's just the finality of that you feel that, you feel the weight of that, the permanency? I don't know. You feel that, though. It's, that's what's sad, is I've lost a friend, good friend, close friend. And I love the times that we had together, and I'm sorry that we won't have more of those good times. So, anyway, Rebecca, if you happen to see this, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sure it's a whole lot more difficult for you. than it is for me. I just want you to know that he was one of my best friends in the world, between him and Benji, and he'll be missed. He was loved. He made an impact. Love that guy. He made such a good friend, such a difference in my life. I appreciated his friendship, and yeah, he's a good guy. So anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to talk it through, I guess. I don't expect anybody to watch this. I certainly don't expect, if anybody did watch it, to be still watching it at this point. But yeah, I don't know. What do you do? Yeah, I'm sad he's gone, but I'm glad he's not suffering anymore. I'm even kind of, I'm even glad for his family that he's not suffering. I wish he would have obviously beat cancer and been completely healthy and lived a long time, forever. But I am glad that he's not having to deal with what he had to deal with this last year and a half. It was a struggle. It's a struggle to watch. I'm sure it was 100 times more difficult to experience. But he was amazing through it. And I even told him, I'm like, dude, I don't know how you do it. And I'm sure you're not always, positive, but dude, if I were you, I'd be hating life. I'd be miserable. I don't know. He was different. So, anyway, thank you for letting me express this and share this. I think I needed that. I haven't talked to anybody about it. It's hard. Again, I'm not great at communication, so I communicate fine, but I don't know. Anyhow, well, I think this is it. So we're right at almost 40 minutes here. I think I've said all I've got to say. All right. Bye, folks. It's Jason Rodriguez with World Impact Collective, remembering Lou Gertner.